The only time I've ever needed a first aid kit on the motorcycle was when my wife and I were riding across Cedar Mountain. I was on my Blackbird and she was on a Honda CBR 600RR. And we went into a hairpin turn and she cartwheeled it. That's right. My wife rocked a Honda CBR 600RR. I came out of the turn and I was watching in my mirrors to see when she would come out of the turn, and she never did. So I turned around, went back, and I found her on the side of the road at the apex of the hairpin, way up on the embankment where her motorcycle had hit a log that had come down. She'd fixated on that. And she went down and the bike came down on top of her, right on top of her leg. In fact, the rear passenger foot peg punctured right through her leathers and into her calf, and actually stabbed her in her calf. And I needed a first aid kit, and I didn't have one. So now, obviously, I ride with one. And that's what I'm talking about today on UTADV, is not only the first aid kit that I have in the box, but I also have a trauma kit and then a survival kit. So let's get started with that. Perhaps you noticed on the last episode when I opened up the pannier, you saw the trauma kit in here as well as the survival kit. And then in my tank bag, I keep this small little first aid kit. Now let me start with that one here first off. Put on my peepers here. Not a whole lot going on in here. It's just stuff to take care of any kind of immediate first aid needs that I might have. And I seem to always have some kind of a self-inflicted wound whenever I'm traveling. So I have just regular Band-Aids in here. I have a wound seal kit. I have a blood clotting sponge kit in here, and I have some painkillers in case I need them. I have a CPR mask in there as well. And this is handy. It's just easy for me to get to in my tank bag or in one of my side bags along the crash bars to use with that. So immediate need kind of thing. If I have something that's more dire, than any of that will take care of, I have this first aid kit. Now this is attached to the top lid of the Jivvy 47-liter pannier on the Explorer, and it's attached that way just with hook and loop Velcro, so it's an easy snatch outside of the box, and then I can go and take care of whatever it is that I need to take care of at the time. Hopefully I have my wits about me when I do. This case is a kind of a threefold first aid kit. I'm going to be very careful as I unfold this because there's some stuff in there that might come out. But you can see how it all unfolds. The bottom kit here, I have all my bandages and gauze, everything that's in there. That way, I'm going to set it over here so I have a wound medic blood clotting compound that's here to irrigate, clean out, and then go through and stop bleeding that way. Not a bad idea for me, at least, to keep a tourniquet on the kit as well. More blood clotting stuff. First and foremost, though, I have gloves and antiseptic to go through and make sure that I'm clean once I go through and attend to whatever wound that I need to attend to, and then make sure my hands stay clean with all of that as well. Lots of other stuff in here. I might put up a little listing so you can maybe check off on your kit what it is that you might feel that you need. I didn't buy a kit. I went through and just kind of pieced things together with this based on the research that I did. A couple of things on here. One thing that's pretty imperative to have is a pair of scissors to go through and cut away that very expensive riding suit that the person is currently struggling inside of. I've got a trach tube in here and some other things, and that bears saying you probably ought to know what it is that you're doing to not only have the right kind of stuff and the gear, but also to have the right kind of training. One last thing that I want to talk about within the trauma bag as it goes is what's called a zip stitch. This is pretty straightforward mechanics going on. It has, there's a zip stitch. It has adhesive on both sides. Once you clean and irrigate the wound and make sure everything's ready to go, this takes the place of suturing the wound. You place this over the top, and then you pull these plastic little sutures together, and it binds the wound, and they all come together with that. Pretty slick and not very expensive, and a lot less painful than having to go through and suture somebody up. So that is that's the trauma kit. Oh, one thing that I forgot to tell you about that I have in the trauma kit is something that I think is pretty handy, especially for the price. You can get into one of these for less than 20 bucks. And what it is, it's a pulse oximeter. And if you're caring for somebody and you're on a 911 call, not a bad idea to have something like this along, because what it's going to be able to give you is more data, more telemetry on your patient that you're working on. One thing it's going to provide you is a pulse. Let's see if I have one yet. The other thing it's going to give you is what is the blood oxygen concentration going on out of 100%. So is your patient breathing? Are they oxygenating? And then there we go. And then what is what's the pulse there going on? So pretty cool, handy little technology. I went through and had this one checked against a clinical oximeter, and it was dead on. So that's the first aid kit, and then the trauma kit. The next one I'm going to get into here is the actual survival kit. I have this in a similar bag that the first aid kit is in. This is a little bit smaller. They both have this MOLLE webbing on there, and then some other hook and loop material. It has the hook side already sewn onto the back of both of these, which makes it nice. All I have to put on then on the lid itself is the soft the hook and the loop part, I guess, the soft part of that, and it just sticks on there. And again, these are easy egress. I can just pull them out of the bag, out of the pannier, and throw them into a bug out bag if I need to walk it. It's all set and ready to go. This gets back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, specifically here as far as heat is concerned, as far as making a fire, and water as far as purifying drinking water. There's also a little bit of there's a bivvy in here as well. Let me carefully open this up and show you, again, it's that threefold thing that's going on. I have fire starter down here in the lower bag. I have a trick little chainsaw in here. I'll show you here in just a minute. Emergency blanket, bivvy. I have paracord on this neat little spool, has a little bit lighter on there, so as I go through and cut paracord, I can burn the edges off so it doesn't unravel. There, a couple of glow sticks, and a water purifying system made by Sawyer. Let me go through these here with you just really quickly. These are great little fire starters. You can buy them in packs of about a half a dozen. I get all my stuff basically through REI, and they're sold by Sol, S-O-L is the company. They make another one that comes in a pack that stashes away rather nicely. That's this one here. It's got a little flint in there to go through and start them. I've used these under just about any kind of condition, and they start pretty easily without any kind of a hassle. I also have a hand warmer in there. This is the chainsaw, and it requires a little bit of upper body strength. I've used this once just to try it out to see what's going on, but there's a loop on each side. I'll go through and kind of untangle this one more time. There we go. There's a loop on each side that you can put your hands through, and then you can go through back and forth and see what's going on. It's a chainsaw there, and I was able to go through about a 4-inch thick branch in about 2 minutes time in using this. Quite impressive. I have a hatchet on board too, not in the kit, but we'll talk about that in another time when we get into the box there. All right, let's see. I have a bivvy. I think I talked about that. The last thing I want to get into here is, besides shelter and fire, is water. I have a Sawyer. This is a Sawyer mini water filter. It's a flow filter where I can take a bottle full of water I've drawn from a river, hopefully moving water, and then put that through the filter and then drink it directly, or I can put it into a Camelback or into a cup or whatever and go through and use that. I don't know how many thousands of gallons this treats, but it treats a lot. I have a number of water filters that I keep on board, but this is my main go-to one, mainly because of its size. I have a backflush system that it comes with that's also in the case, and then I have a converter to use just about any kind of plastic bottle that I can find that will attach to this, and then let me cycle the water through that. So that's about it. Oh, I have a signal mirror in there as well. I'll put up a list here of everything that's inside this, as well as the first aid kits for those of you who are list types. Like I said, I didn't buy a kit. I just went through and kind of put this all together based on research that I've done to be better prepared than I ever was on that east side of Cedar Mountain, going through and riding with my spouse. She no longer rides a sport bike that way. Actually, she rocks a Subaru Crosstrek, not a Lambo, because she ain't quite there yet. Sorry, I just couldn't help myself. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Utah ADV, and I'll catch you on the next one when we start getting into, you know what I think I'm going to get into is the tank bag and the side saddles, and start talking about the gear that I keep at hand, and then we'll get into the box. All right? Okay. Thanks for watching.